The notification lit up my phone at 2:55 a.m. on a Tuesday. Not my phone, actually, my wife's. The one she'd left charging on the kitchen counter while she showered upstairs. I wasn't snooping. I was getting water. The screen just glowed there in the darkness, and my eyes caught the preview before my brain could tell them not to look. Tyler. Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. When can I see you again? My name is David Patterson. I'm 41 years old, been married to Rachel for 16 years, and until that moment I thought I knew exactly what my life looked like. Software engineer. Nice house in Scottsdale, Arizona. 2 kids, Emma, 14, and Jake, 11. The kind of stable, comfortable existence that doesn't make for interesting dinner conversation but feels like winning when you're living it. I stood there in my boxer shorts, holding an empty glass, staring at those words like they were written in a language I'd never learned. My hand moved on autopilot. I picked up her phone. No passcode. We'd never had passcodes. That was the kind of marriage we had. Or thought we had. I swiped open the message thread. What I found wasn't just a crack in my marriage. It was a sinkhole that had been forming underneath us for months, and I'd been too blind or too trusting or too stupid to notice the ground shifting beneath my feet. The messages went back to February. It was now late June. 4 months of "Good morning, handsome" and "Last night was incredible," and detailed planning of meetups that happened while I thought my wife was at yoga, or book club, or helping her sister with wedding planning. Tyler Brennan. I scrolled up far enough to find a photo he'd sent. Younger than me, maybe 35, gym rat build. That carefully groomed stubble that takes more maintenance than my entire morning routine. He worked at the marketing firm where Rachel had started as a consultant in January. Right after New Year's. Right after we'd hosted that party where we'd kissed at midnight and she'd whispered that this year was going to be different. Better. That she was excited about her new job and our new chapter. I guess she hadn't been lying about the excitement. My hands shook as I scrolled. There were photos. Nothing explicit, thank God for small mercies. But enough. Rachel in lingerie I'd never seen. Rachel in his car. Rachel at what looked like a hotel bar, leaning into him with a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in... how long? Years, maybe. The shower shut off upstairs. I had maybe 5 minutes before she came down. My brain kicked into a gear I didn't know I had. I grabbed my own phone and started taking pictures of her screen. Every message, every photo, every damning piece of evidence that my marriage was a lie. My photographer friend Jake, different Jake, not my son, had once told me about this cloud backup thing. I opened Rachel's Photos app. Sure enough, automatically backing up to her account. I noted the email, made a mental note of everything I'd need. The bathroom door opened upstairs. I heard her humming. Actually humming. I put her phone back exactly where it had been, filled my glass with water, and walked back toward the stairs. We passed each other on the landing. She was in her bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel, smelling like the lavender soap we'd bought together at that farmer's market last month. "Can't sleep?" she asked, touching my arm as she passed. "Just thirsty," I said. My voice sounded normal. How was that possible? She smiled at me. The same smile she'd probably given Tyler Brennan that afternoon. "Don't stay up too late. You've got that presentation tomorrow." Thursday. I had the quarterly review presentation Thursday. She remembered. The caring wife who kept track of my schedule and made sure I had my favorite coffee creamer and reminded me about Emma's orthodontist appointments. the wife who was sleeping with someone else. I went back to bed. Rachel came up 10 minutes later, checked her phone. I watched her through slitted eyes and plugged it back in. She slipped into bed beside me, and I felt her settle into her usual position, back to me, the way we'd slept for years. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, and planned. By the time the sun came up, I'd made several decisions. First, I wasn't confronting her yet. Every divorced guy I'd ever known had the same story about how they'd blown up, confronted their wife immediately, and then watched as evidence disappeared and stories changed. Second, I needed a lawyer, a good one. Arizona was a no-fault divorce state, but adultery still mattered for custody and asset division. I'd been the primary breadwinner for 16 years. Our house, our savings, our kids' college funds. I'd built that while Rachel had worked part-time and then stayed home and then gone back to work just 6 months ago. Third, I needed more evidence, not just messages. I needed proof of where she was going, when, how often. I needed financial records showing if she was spending our money on this affair. I needed everything documented, time-stamped, irrefutable. Fourth, I needed to protect my kids. Whatever happened next, Emma and Jake couldn't be collateral damage to their mother's choices. Rachel woke up at 7 like always, kissed my cheek like always, and went downstairs to make breakfast like always. I heard her calling the kids to wake up, heard the familiar morning chaos of our family getting ready for another day. I got in the shower and let the water run cold, forcing myself to feel something besides the numbness spreading through my chest. The morning routine played out like theater. Rachel made blueberry pancakes, Jake's favorite, while humming that same tune from the shower. I sat at the kitchen island with my coffee, watching her flip batter with practiced ease, and wondered how many mornings she'd stood in this exact spot planning her next lie. "You seem tired," she said, sliding a plate in front of me. "Didn't sleep well. I noticed you tossing around." She touched my shoulder, and I had to concentrate on not flinching. "Maybe you should work from home today. Take it easy." "Can't. Team meeting at 10. Emma shuffled in, still half asleep, earbuds already in. Jake followed, immediately complaining about his brother stealing his charger, a fight I'd refereed 1,000 times. Rachel mediated with the patience of a saint, kissed both kids on the head, reminded Emma about her orthodontist appointment Thursday. Thursday, the day Rachel had a presentation scheduled. The day she'd actually blocked off from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. to meet Tyler at the Phoenician Resort. I'd seen the reservation confirmation in her messages. I drove to work on autopilot, my mind cataloging everything I needed to do. First stop, lawyer. I'd already researched divorce attorneys in Scottsdale during the 3 hours I'd laid awake after Rachel fell back asleep. I'd narrowed it to 3 names, all with expertise in high-asset divorces and custody cases. At 9:15 a.m., sitting in my car in the office parking lot, I called the first number. Law offices of Patricia Brennan. Different Brennan, I'd checked. "I need to schedule a consultation, divorce case." "Of course, Mr. Patterson, David Patterson." The receptionist's voice remained professionally neutral. "We have an opening today at 4:30 or tomorrow at 11. Today, 4:30. Perfect. We'll need you to bring any relevant financial documents. I'll bring everything." I hung up and sat there, staring at the office building where I'd worked for 9 years. Through the glass doors, I could see Amanda from accounting getting coffee from the break room. Normal Wednesday morning. Everyone going about their lives while mine cracked apart. My phone buzzed. Rachel, Rachel. Hope your meeting goes well. Love you. I stared at the heart emoji for 10 seconds before typing back. Me. Thanks. No heart. No love you too. Let her wonder. The team meeting was excruciating. My boss, Kevin, droned on about the Q3 roadmap while I pretended to take notes. Really, I was making lists. Financial accounts to check. Joint checking. Joint savings. My 401k. Her IRA. Kids' college funds. Credit cards. Documents to gather. Tax returns, last 3 years. Mortgage statements, car titles, insurance policies, bank statements, evidence to collect. Phone records, check our Verizon account. Credit card statements, look for hotel charges, restaurants. Her laptop, if possible. Cloud storage backup. Kevin called on me directly, something about the authentication module, and I bullshitted my way through an answer that seemed to satisfy him. The meeting ended at 11:20. I went back to my desk and logged into our joint bank account. The transactions told their own story. Yoga classes she'd never attended. $45 charges at Core Power Yoga. Regular as clockwork, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Except I'd checked their class schedule online this morning. The Tuesday 6 p.m. class she supposedly attended didn't exist. They closed at 5:30 on Tuesdays. Lunch purchases downtown on days she claimed to be working from home. A $200 charge at a boutique lingerie store in March. She hadn't worn anything new for me. I screenshotted everything, uploading each image to a private folder in my work cloud storage. Rachel didn't have access to my work accounts. At 12:30, I drove home. Rachel's car was gone. She had a client lunch scheduled. I had maybe 2 hours. The house felt different in daylight, knowing what I knew. I went straight to our bedroom, to Rachel's nightstand. She kept old journals in the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of magazines she never read. I found 3 journals dated over the past 2 years. I flipped through the most recent one, and my hands started shaking on the 3rd page. February 18th. Tyler asked me to lunch today, just the 2 of us, to discuss the Sanderson campaign. We went to that Italian place on Camelback. He's so easy to talk to, so different from D. He actually listens when I speak, looks at me like I'm interesting, not just the person who schedules the kids' dentist appointments. I know I shouldn't feel this way. I know it's wrong. But God, it felt good to be seen. February 18th. I checked my phone calendar. That was the Tuesday I'd stayed late debugging the payment gateway issue. I'd texted Rachel I'd be home by 9. She'd responded with a thumbs-up emoji. I kept reading. March 3rd. It happened. I can't believe it happened. We stayed late to finish the presentation deck, and then we were in his car, and then we were at his apartment, and I didn't stop it. I didn't want to stop it. I feel terrible. I feel alive. I haven't felt like this in years. D doesn't know. D never knows anything unless I tell him directly. He's so absorbed in his work, his code, his perfect little systems. When's the last time he looked at me the way Tyler does? The way Tyler does. Present tense. Ongoing. I photographed every page with my phone, my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. April 22nd. Tyler wants me to leave D. He says we could be happy together, that he'd treat me right. I told him it's complicated, the kids, the house, everything we've built. But I'm starting to wonder if everything we've built is just a prison I've locked myself in. D asked me yesterday if I was happy, just out of nowhere, over dinner. I said yes, of course, why wouldn't I be? He seemed satisfied with that. He's always satisfied with surface answers. I remembered that conversation. I'd asked because she'd seemed distant, distracted. She'd smiled and squeezed my hand and changed the subject to Jake's science project. I'd believed her. Like an idiot, I'd believed her. The last entry was dated 3 days ago. June 25th. Thursday can't come fast enough. Tyler booked us a suite at the Phoenician. A whole afternoon, just us. No sneaking around, no quick meetings in parking garages. I bought new lingerie. Red. His favorite color. I know I need to make a decision soon. Tyler's getting impatient. But every time I think about telling D, I imagine his face, and I can't do it. He doesn't deserve this, but I can't give Tyler up either. Maybe I'm a terrible person. Maybe I've always been a terrible person and I'm just now admitting it. I closed the journal, put it back exactly where I'd found it, beneath the unread magazines. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt cold, clear-headed. The initial shock had burned away, leaving something harder behind. I went to her closet, found the red lingerie in the back of her underwear drawer, tags still attached. $180 from that boutique charge in March. She'd been planning this for months. I photographed the tags, the receipt tucked in the bag. In her car, I had a spare key. I found the trail map she'd mentioned using for bird-watching hikes. Except it wasn't for local trails. It was for the Superstition Mountains, 40 minutes east. And there were annotations in handwriting that wasn't hers. Hearts drawn around certain trail markers. Initials. T+WAR. I photographed everything. Back inside, I checked her laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, still logged in. I opened her email. There were dozens of messages from Tyler, going back to January. Before the affair even started, he'd been circling, complimenting her work, suggesting coffee meetings, asking about her weekend plans. And Rachel had responded. Flirted back, encouraged him. I forwarded the entire email chain to my personal account, then deleted the forwarded messages from her sent folder. Cleared the trash. She'd never know. My phone alarm went off at 3:45. Time to leave for the lawyer's office. I locked up the house, erased my presence from every surface. Rachel would come home to everything exactly as she'd left it, never knowing I'd spent 2 hours documenting her betrayal in minute detail. Patricia Brennan's office was in a sleek building off Scottsdale Road. The receptionist offered me water, coffee, both of which I declined. I sat in the waiting room with a folder containing printouts of everything I'd found, organized chronologically. At 4:30 exactly, Patricia Brennan emerged. She was mid-50s, gray hair cut sharp, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Mr. Patterson, please, come in. Her office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Camelback Mountain. She gestured to a leather chair across from her desk. Tell me what's going on. I opened my folder. My wife is having an affair. I have proof. The consultation with Patricia Brennan lasted 90 minutes. She was sharp, mid-50s, with reading glasses on a chain and a way of cutting through emotional noise to reach the facts underneath. I appreciated that. I didn't need sympathy. I needed strategy. Arizona is a no-fault, community property state, she'd said, spreading my documentation across her desk. Which means the affair itself doesn't impact the division of assets, but it does establish a pattern of deception that can be useful in custody discussions. This level of documentation, financial records, communications, photographic evidence, gives us significant leverage. She'd outlined the process: petition filing, service of papers, temporary orders hearing, discovery, settlement negotiations or trial. 6 months minimum if Rachel cooperated. Longer if she fought. The house, I'd asked. Community property. Purchased during the marriage, so it's 50-50 regardless of who paid the mortgage. But we can argue for you to keep it based on the children's stability needs. You'd buy out her half, likely through other asset offsets or refinancing. The retirement accounts, the college funds, the cars, all of it got divided down the middle. 16 years of building a life, split like a business dissolution. I'd left her office at 6:15 with a retainer agreement and a timeline. She'd draft the initial petition by Thursday. I could file as early as Friday. Thursday. The same day Rachel planned to meet Tyler at the Phoenician. Wednesday morning arrived with the same performance. Rachel hummed in the shower, made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs. Just toast, I said, watching her move through our kitchen like she belonged there. She wore a navy dress I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. Professional, fitted, appropriate for her office, appropriate for whatever she had planned tomorrow. Big day today? I asked. Just the usual. Meeting with a client at 10, then lunch with Stephanie from accounting. She smiled, buttering her own toast. You? Code review in the afternoon. Nothing exciting. The lies stacked between us like cordwood. Hers deliberate, mine protective. She kissed my cheek before leaving. Her perfume, something floral, expensive, probably purchased with our joint credit card for Tyler's benefit, lingered after the garage door closed. I waited 5 minutes, then opened my laptop. Rachel's cloud backup synced continuously. I'd been monitoring it since Tuesday morning, watching for any communication that might indicate she suspected my discovery. Nothing yet. She and Tyler had exchanged their usual messages, good morning texts, complaints about work, inside jokes that made my stomach turn. But this morning, something new appeared. Tyler. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., I already checked us in online. Room 847. Rachel. I told David I have an all-day workshop. Won't be home until 7. Tyler. 5 hours. We can actually take our time. Rachel. I keep thinking about Sedona when we watch the sunset from that overlook. Tyler. This weekend was supposed to be our getaway, but we'll make tomorrow count. I read it 3 times, committing every word to memory. Then I took screenshots, added them to my evidence folder, and opened a new browser tab. The Phoenician Resort's website loaded. Luxury accommodations, spa services, championship golf course. Room rates starting at $400 per night. I navigated to their reservations page and made a booking of my own. Room 849, right next door. Patricia called at 11. I've drafted the initial petition, she said. I'm sending it to your personal email now. Review it carefully. Once you're satisfied, we can file Friday morning. I opened the attachment on my phone, scrolling through the legal language. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Irreconcilable differences. Joint legal custody with primary physical custody to petitioner. Equitable division of community property and debts. It was real now, typed, formatted, ready to file. There's something else I need to discuss, I said. Tomorrow afternoon, my wife is meeting her affair partner at the Phoenician Resort. I've booked the room next door. Silence on the other end. Then, Mr. Patterson, I need to advise you against any confrontation that could be construed as, I'm not confronting anyone. I'm documenting. If I'm in the adjacent room and I happen to hear or observe evidence that corroborates the affair, that's not illegal. Technically correct, But Arizona is a two-party consent state for audio recording. You cannot record their conversation without both parties' knowledge. I understand. No recording devices. Another pause. What exactly are you planning? I'm planning to verify what I already know, and then I'm planning to file these papers. Mr. Patterson, David, you already have sufficient evidence. You don't need to put yourself through. Yes, I do. I don't know why I needed it. Maybe because screenshots and credit card statements still felt abstract. Maybe because some part of me, the part that had trusted her for 16 years, needed to see it with my own eyes before I could truly burn it all down. Or maybe I just wanted her to know that I knew. Wanted to watch her face when the fantasy collapsed. Patricia sighed. If you're determined to do this, be smart. Don't make contact. Don't create a scene. Document only. And call me immediately afterward. Understood. And David? Once you file these papers, there's no taking it back. Make sure you're ready. I looked at the petition on my screen. The legal dissolution of Rachel Marie Patterson and David James Patterson's marriage. I'm ready. Wednesday night, Rachel came home at 6:30 with Thai takeout and a smile. Thought we could use a break from cooking, she said, unpacking containers of pad thai and green curry. We ate at the kitchen table. She talked about her day, the difficult client, Stephanie's upcoming wedding, office politics I should care about. I made appropriate responses, asked follow-up questions, played my role. Tomorrow's going to be long, she said, twirling noodles around her fork. That workshop doesn't end until 6, and you know how these things run over. What's the topic? Digital marketing strategies for Q3. Boring, but necessary. The lie rolled off her tongue like truth. I'll probably grab dinner on the way home, so don't wait for me. Okay. You'll get the kids from school. Already on my calendar. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you. I know I've been busy with work lately. I appreciate you picking up the slack. I looked at her hand on mine. The wedding ring I'd placed there 16 years ago. The French manicure she'd gotten last week, probably in preparation for tomorrow. It's fine, I said. After dinner, she loaded the dishwasher while I helped Jake with his math homework. Emma practiced violin upstairs, the notes drifting down like a soundtrack to our domestic theater. At 9:30, Rachel kissed both kids goodnight, then came to find me in my office. Don't stay up too late, she said, rubbing my shoulders. You've been stressed lately. Just a deadline. Well, don't overdo it. She kissed the top of my head. Love you. Love you too. The words felt like ash in my mouth. I listened to her footsteps fade down the hallway, heard our bedroom door close, waited until I heard the shower running. Then I opened my laptop and finalized my plans for tomorrow. Thursday morning. The day everything ended. Rachel's alarm went off at 6. I pretended to sleep while she showered, dressed, applied makeup with more care than usual. When she finally left at 7:15, she was wearing the navy dress again and carrying her laptop bag. See you tonight, she called from the doorway. The garage door closed. Her car pulled away. I got up, made coffee, and reviewed my timeline. Emma and Jake would be at school until 3. I'd arranged for my mother to pick them up and keep them until 7, told her I had a work emergency. She'd agreed without questions. My own reservation at the Phoenician started at 1:30, early enough to be settled before Rachel arrived at 2. I'd packed a small bag, laptop, phone charger, the folder containing every piece of evidence I'd collected. The divorce petition, printed and ready for signatures. At noon, I called Patricia. I'm going through with it, I said. You're sure? Completely. Then I'll be ready to file tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. sharp. I drove to the Phoenician at 1, taking the long route through Scottsdale, past the familiar landmarks of our married life. The park where we'd had Emma's 5th birthday party. The restaurant where we'd celebrated our 10th anniversary. The grocery store where Rachel bought lavender soap from the farmer's market. All of it about to become history. The resort sprawled across 250 acres of manicured desert landscape. I checked in at the main building, received my key card for room 849, and made my way to the 8th floor. The hallway was quiet, carpeted in tasteful neutrals. Room 847 was 3 doors down from the elevator. I unlocked 849 and stepped inside. The room was identical to what Tyler had probably booked. King bed, sitting area, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Camelback Mountain. Luxury accommodations for an afternoon of betrayal. I set my bag on the desk and waited. The digital clock on the nightstand read 1:47 p.m. when I heard the door to room 847 click open. I'd been sitting in the armchair by the window for nearly an hour, watching the hallway through the peephole at irregular intervals. The Phoenician had excellent soundproofing, but the doors were close enough that I could hear the low murmur of voices next door. Tyler's voice, smooth and confident. Then Rachel's laugh, the one I used to think was reserved for my jokes. My phone sat on the desk beside me, camera app ready. I'd already tested the angle through the peephole. Clear view of their door. Time-stamped photos would show her entering, show how long she stayed. The plan was simple. Document, don't engage. Let the evidence speak in court. But my hands were shaking. I stood and moved to the peephole again. Through the fisheye lens, I could see a sliver of their doorway. The Do Not Disturb sign swung slightly as the door closed. I raised my phone and snapped 3 photos in quick succession. The timestamp read 1:48 p.m., exactly when she'd told me she'd be in back-to-back client meetings. I returned to the chair and set a timer on my watch. Patricia had been clear. Documentation was everything. Time of arrival, duration of stay, photographic evidence of entry and exit. Arizona was a no-fault state, but proof of adultery could still impact the division of assets, especially when combined with the financial evidence I'd already compiled. The walls were thick enough that I couldn't make out words, but I could hear the rhythm of conversation. Normal talking. Not what I'd expected, though I wasn't sure what I'd expected. Some part of me had imagined immediate passion, the urgency I'd read about in her journal entries. Instead, it sounded like they were just talking. I checked my watch. 1:52 p.m., 4 minutes. My water bottle sat unopened on the desk. I'd brought it thinking I might need to stay hydrated during a long wait, but my throat felt like sandpaper and I couldn't bring myself to drink. The air conditioning hummed. Outside the window, Phoenix sprawled under the brutal June sun, heat waves rising from the parking lot in visible ripples. Rachel had left the house at 12:30, wearing the navy dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She'd kissed me goodbye at the door, told me she'd probably be home around 7 because the client dinner might run long. "Don't wait up," she'd said, adjusting her earrings in the hallway mirror. I'd smiled and told her good luck with the presentation. The performance had become so natural for both of us that I almost believed it myself. At 2:03 p.m., the voices next door went quiet. I stood and paced to the window, then back to the door. The silence felt heavier than the conversation had. I pressed my ear against the wall we shared, immediately felt pathetic for doing it, and pulled away. The timer on my watch ticked forward. 2:07. 2:11. 2:15. I'd brought my laptop thinking I might get some work done while I waited. It sat unopened in my bag. I'd brought a book. Still in my overnight bag, unread. I'd thought I could be methodical about this, clinical even. Treat it like a stakeout in some detective novel, dispassionate observation for the sake of evidence. Instead, I felt like I was suffocating. At 2:23, I heard water running through the pipes. A shower. I checked my watch and made a note in my phone. 2:23 p.m. shower running. Patricia had said to document everything, even details that seemed insignificant. The shower ran for 8 minutes. At 2:35, I heard Rachel's laugh again, muffled through the wall. Then Tyler's voice, lower, indistinct. A pause. More murmuring. I moved back to the peephole and waited. At 2:41, their door opened. I raised my phone and started recording video this time, keeping it steady against the peephole's edge. Tyler emerged first, wearing khakis and a polo shirt that showed off the gym-built shoulders Rachel had mentioned in her journal. He looked down the hallway, checking for observers, then turned back to the doorway. Rachel appeared a moment later, smoothing her dress. Her hair was different, looser than when she'd left home, like she'd let it down and then tried to pin it back up. She said something I couldn't hear, and Tyler smiled, reaching out to tuck a strand behind her ear. The gesture was so casual, so intimate, that my finger nearly slipped off the record button. They stood in the doorway for another 30 seconds, talking in low voices. Tyler's hand rested on her waist. Rachel leaned into him, her palm flat against his chest. Then she glanced at her watch, said something that made him frown and pulled away. She kissed him. Quick, familiar. The kind of kiss you give someone when you're running late but want them to know you'll be back. The kind of kiss she used to give me. I kept recording. Tyler disappeared back into the room. Rachel adjusted her purse on her shoulder, checked her phone, and started down the hallway toward the elevators. She walked past my door without a glance, heels clicking on the carpet, and I tracked her movement through the peephole until she turned the corner. I stopped the recording. 2:44 p.m. Total time in the room, 56 minutes. I saved the video to 3 different cloud accounts, then texted Patricia. Documentation complete. She just left. Her response came back in under a minute. Good. Don't do anything else. Come to my office at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I sat back down in the armchair and stared at the wall I shared with Tyler's room. He was still in there, probably showering, probably getting ready to head back to work like this was just another Thursday afternoon. My phone buzzed. Rachel's name on the screen. Client presentation went well. Heading to dinner now. Love you. I typed back, great news, have fun. Then I opened my email and pulled up the message Patricia had sent me yesterday, the one with the PDF of the dissolution papers attached. I'd read through them twice already, knew every clause and condition. Community property division, custody arrangements, financial disclosures. I'd planned to wait until tomorrow, file them first thing in the morning after meeting with Patricia one final time. But sitting in that hotel room, watching the timestamp on my video documentation tick forward, something shifted. I opened a new browser window and logged into the Maricopa County Superior Court's electronic filing system. My credentials were already saved. I'd set up the account 3 days ago. The divorce petition was ready to go, saved in my drafts folder. All it needed was a final review and submission. I read through it one more time. Petitioner, David Michael Patterson. Respondent, Rachel Ann Patterson. Grounds, irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Community property to be divided per Arizona law. Joint custody of minor children subject to parenting plan. Clean. Simple. No fault, just like Patricia had recommended. My cursor hovered over the submit button. Through the wall, I heard Tyler's door open and close. Footsteps in the hallway, fading toward the elevator. I clicked submit. The system processed for 3 seconds, then displayed a confirmation screen. Case number assigned. Filing fee paid. Electronic service to be completed within 24 hours. Rachel would receive the notification tomorrow morning, probably while she was having coffee, checking her phone before the kids woke up. A message from the Maricopa County Court System. Official notice of dissolution proceedings. I closed the laptop and stood. The room felt smaller now, the air thicker. I grabbed my overnight bag, did a final sweep to make sure I hadn't left anything behind, and headed for the door. In the hallway, a housekeeper was pushing her cart toward the elevators. She smiled and nodded as I passed. I nodded back. The Phoenician's lobby was busy with afternoon check-ins, tourists in vacation clothes talking about dinner reservations and pool time. I walked through them like a ghost, handed my keycard to the front desk, and declined the offer to review my bill. "Everything satisfactory with your stay?" the clerk asked. "Perfect," I said. "Got exactly what I came for." The paperwork sat in my briefcase like a loaded weapon. I'd filed electronically Thursday afternoon, standing in that hotel parking lot with my hands still shaking from what I'd witnessed. The court clerk confirmed receipt at 3:17 p.m. Rachel would be served Friday morning, today, at the house. I'd spent Thursday night at a Marriott near Tempe. Couldn't stomach the thought of sleeping in our bed while she drove home from Tyler's arms. Ordered room service I didn't eat. Watched the ceiling fan rotate. Calculated timelines. Friday morning, I was back at the house by 6. Rachel's car already in the driveway. She'd come home late Thursday, probably around 10 based on the security system log I'd checked remotely. I'd disabled notifications so she wouldn't know I'd been monitoring. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, yoga pants and one of my old Stanford shirts, pouring coffee like this was any other morning. "Hey," she said, glancing up with that smile. "The one I used to love. Didn't hear you come in last night." "Late project call," I said. The lie came easier now. "Crashed in the guest room. Didn't want to wake you." "You work too hard." She handed me a mug, fingers brushing mine. I didn't pull away fast enough and she noticed, a small crease forming between her eyebrows. The doorbell rang at 7:43 a.m. Rachel looked toward the front door, then back at me. "Expecting someone?" "No idea." I stayed at the kitchen counter, took a slow sip of coffee I couldn't taste. She walked to the door. I heard the lock turn, the creak of hinges. A woman's voice, professional and neutral. "Rachel Marie Patterson?" "Yes?" "You've been served. Have a good day, ma'am." Silence. Then footsteps, slow and uncertain, back toward the kitchen. Rachel appeared in the doorway holding a manila envelope, her face drained of color. "David?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "What is this?" I set down the mug, met her eyes. "Open it." Her hands trembled as she pulled out the papers. I watched her scan the first page, petition for dissolution of marriage, then flip through the rest. Financial disclosures, asset division requests, proposed custody arrangement. I don't understand." She looked up at me, and for a second I almost believed the confusion in her eyes. "This is a mistake. This has to be February 14th, I said quietly. "Tyler Brennan sent you roses at the office. You texted him that night. Best Valentine's Day in years." March 9th, The Hilton on Camelback. You told me you had a client dinner. March 23rd, his apartment in Old Town. April 6th, back to the Hilton. April 27th, the W Hotel. May 18th. Stop. Her voice cracked. The papers slipped from her hands, scattering across the kitchen floor. How did you? Yesterday, the Phoenician. Room 847. You were there from 1:48 to 2:44 p.m. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the video I'd recorded. Her walking into the hotel in that blue dress, the one she'd said was for the workshop presentation. Want to see the rest? She stared at the screen, then at me. Something shifted in her expression, the mask finally dropping. You followed me. I gathered evidence. There's a difference. Evidence? She laughed, high and brittle. You're talking like this is some kind of investigation. I'm your wife, David. We've been married 16 years. 16 years, I repeated. And 4 months ago you decided none of that mattered. It's not. She pressed her palms against the counter, head bowed. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. I kept my voice level, controlled. Explain the hotel rooms, the text messages, the lies. Explain Thursday afternoon while I was supposedly at work and you were supposedly giving a presentation. She flinched. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. Things between us, they've been different. Distant. You're always working, always focused on the next project, the next deadline. When was the last time you really looked at me? Really saw me? The words should have stung. Maybe they would have, a week ago. Now they just sounded hollow. So this is my fault, I said. I worked too much, paid too little attention, and that justifies 4 months of lying to my face? No, God, no. I'm not saying. She wiped at her eyes, mascara smearing. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. I'm done working through things. David, please. She moved toward me and I stepped back. She froze. Please. Think about Emma and Jake. Think about what this will do to them. I have thought about them. That's why I'm doing this now instead of letting them grow up watching their mother lie every single day. You bastard. The words came out sharp, venomous. You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so perfect? You think you've been the ideal husband? No, but I didn't sleep with someone else. She grabbed the papers from the floor, hands shaking so hard the pages rattled. You can't just ambush me like this. I need time. I need to talk to a lawyer. Talk to whoever you want. The petition's already filed. You've got 20 days to respond. 20 days. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You've been planning this. How long have you known? Long enough? How long, David? Does it matter? Her face crumpled. All those nights this week you knew, and you watched me. You let me think everything was normal. Like you've been doing to me since February? She had no answer for that. Just stood there in our kitchen. My kitchen, the one I'd paid for with 16 years of software engineering salaries while she'd been part-time and then unemployed and then finally consulting, holding divorce papers and crying. I should have felt something. Triumph, maybe. Vindication. Instead, there was just emptiness. A vast hollow space where 16 years used to be. I'll be staying at a hotel until we figure out living arrangements, I said. The kids are at your mom's this weekend. You can tell them whatever you want, but they'll need to know soon. You're leaving. Not a question, a statement of fact, delivered in a voice scraped raw. I left Thursday afternoon. I just came back to make sure you got served. And Tyler? Does he know? Not my problem. She laughed again, that same broken sound. Right. Not your problem. Nothing's your problem except your precious evidence and your timeline and your... She threw the papers at me. They fluttered through the air, landing at my feet. You want the house? Fine, take it. Take everything. I don't care anymore. The house stays with whoever gets primary custody. That's Arizona law. Of course you'd know that. Of course you'd have it all figured out. She grabbed her purse from the counter, keys jangling. I can't be here right now. I can't look at you. Where are you going? She stopped at the kitchen doorway, turned back. Her eyes were red, makeup ruined, hair falling out of its ponytail. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Anywhere but here. The front door slammed. Her car started, tires squealing as she backed out too fast. I watched through the window as she disappeared down the street. Then I was alone in the house. Our house. The coffee maker still burbling. Her mug on the counter, lipstick stain on the rim. The divorce papers scattered across the tile floor like fallen leaves. I gathered them methodically, stacking them in order. Petition. Financial disclosures. Proposed parenting plan. Evidence appendix. Each page a nail in the coffin of my marriage. My phone buzzed. Patricia Brennan, my attorney. Process server confirmed delivery. How did it go? I typed back. As expected, she's gone. I'm at the house. Good. Don't leave any communication unrecorded from this point forward. If she contacts you, be civil but brief. And David? The hard part's just starting. I looked around the kitchen. 16 years of accumulated life. Photos on the refrigerator. Emma's honor roll certificate. Jake's soccer schedule. Rachel's handwriting on the grocery list still stuck to the bulletin board. The hard part's just starting. I believed her. The text came through at 9:23 a.m. while I was sitting at my kitchen table with my second cup of coffee, staring at the spot where Rachel had stood just 2 hours earlier. Rachel Patterson. I'm staying at the Fairmont. Room 612. We need to talk about the kids. I set the phone down, picked it up again, read it 3 times. The kids. Of course, the only card she had left to play. My phone buzzed again. Rachel Patterson. Please, I know you're angry, but Emma and Jake deserve better than this. I typed back, they're staying with your mother until Sunday. We'll discuss custody through attorneys. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Rachel Patterson. David, please. Can we at least talk like adults? For them? My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Patricia had been clear. No direct communication unless absolutely necessary. Everything documented. Everything through proper channels. But Rachel was right about one thing. The kids were coming home Sunday afternoon. They'd ask questions. They'd want answers. And whatever happened next, Emma and Jake didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire of our attorney's correspondence. I called Patricia first. David, how are you holding up? She wants to meet, says it's about the kids. A pause. Do you think that's wise? Probably not. But she's right that we need to figure out how to handle telling them. If you do meet, keep it brief. Public location. Don't discuss assets or settlement terms. Don't make any promises. And David? Her voice sharpened. Record the conversation. Arizona's a one-party consent state. Understood. I hung up and texted Rachel back. Coffee shop on Scottsdale Road, the one near Emma's orthodontist. Noon. Rachel Patterson. Thank you. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner with clear sightlines to the entrance. Old habits from too many years of debugging code. Always know your exit points. Always see what's coming. Rachel walked in at 12:04 p.m. wearing jeans and a loose sweater I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She looked like she'd been crying. Good. She spotted me and walked over slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal that might bolt. "Thank you for coming," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. I didn't respond. Just set my phone on the table between us, voice recorder app running. Her eyes flicked to it. "Really?" My attorney advised it. Of course she did. Rachel folded her hands on the table. "David, The kids," I interrupted. "That's why we're here. How do we tell them?" She flinched. "Right. Yes. I've been thinking about that. And we should tell them together. This weekend when they get back from mom's, we sit them down, we explain that sometimes adults grow apart, that it's not their fault, that we both love them." "No." Rachel blinked. "No? We don't tell them we grew apart. We don't feed them some sanitized version where nobody's to blame and everyone's feelings are valid." I leaned forward. "You had an affair, Rachel, for 4 months. You lied to me, to them, to everyone. That's why our marriage is ending. The kids don't need to know the details. They're 14 and 11, not 5. Emma's going to ask questions. She's going to want to know why, and I'm not going to lie to protect your reputation." Rachel's jaw tightened. "So what? You're going to tell our daughter that her mother's a cheater? You're going to make them hate me?" "I'm going to tell them the truth in age-appropriate language. That you broke your marriage vows. That you made choices that hurt our family. They can draw their own conclusions." "David, please." Her voice cracked. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But they're my kids too. Don't poison them against me." "Then you should have thought about that before you spent Thursday afternoon in a hotel room with Tyler." She went pale. "How did you—" "Room 847 at the Phoenician. You arrived at 1:48 p.m., left at 2:44 p.m. I was in the room next door." Rachel stared at me like I'd slapped her. "You followed me?" "I documented your affair for the custody hearing." "Custody?" She stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. Several heads turned. She lowered her voice to a hiss. "You're going to try to take my children away from me?" "I'm going to argue for primary physical custody, yes. The house goes with the kids. Arizona law." "You bastard!" Her hands were shaking. "You calculated, manipulative. Sit down, Rachel." No, I'm not doing this." She grabbed her purse. "You want a war? Fine. We'll have a war. But I'm not letting you turn my kids against me and steal my house because you're too emotionally stunted to forgive a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. An affair is a choice. Multiple choices. Every text, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine." "I was unhappy," the words burst out of her. "For years, David. Years of you coming home and going straight to your laptop. Years of me handling everything with the kids while you optimized code or whatever the hell you do in that office. Years of feeling invisible in my own marriage. So you decided Tyler Brennan was the solution. I decided I deserved to feel wanted, to feel seen, to feel like more than just the person who schedules dentist appointments and signs permission slips. You could have talked to me. We could have gone to counseling. You had options that didn't involve spreading your legs for your coworker." Rachel's hand moved before I registered it. The slap connected with my cheek hard enough to snap my head sideways. The coffee shop went silent. I touched my face slowly, feeling the heat spread across my skin. Looked up at her. "You're going to regret that." What are you going to do, David? Hit me back? Go ahead. Give me something to show the judge. I picked up my phone, stopped the recording, and stood. I don't need to hit you, Rachel. You just assaulted me in a public place with witnesses and audio documentation. Patricia's gonna love this. The color drained from her face. David, wait. We're done here. My attorney will contact yours about custody arrangements and supervised visitation until the hearing. Don't come to the house. Don't contact me except through legal channels. And Rachel? I leaned closer. The next time you see Emma and Jake, it'll be because a judge says you can. I walked out while she was still standing there, hand over her mouth, realizing what she'd just done. Patricia called me back 20 minutes later. I heard the recording. David, this is significant. Physical assault, even a slap, goes directly to her fitness as a custodial parent. Combined with the affair documentation, the hotel evidence, the financial deception. Can we get emergency custody? Possibly. I'll file a motion Monday morning arguing that her violent outburst demonstrates instability. The kids are safe with their grandmother through Sunday, which gives us time to build the case. But David, I need to ask, are you okay? I touched my cheek, still tender. I'm fine. That's not what I meant. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, engine running, looking at the house Rachel and I had bought together 13 years ago. The house where we'd brought Emma home from the hospital, where Jake had taken his first steps, where we'd hosted birthday parties and Thanksgiving dinners and 1,000 ordinary moments that I'd thought were building towards something permanent. I'm fine, I repeated. What do we do next? Patricia sighed. Next, you document that injury. Take photos. See your doctor if there's any mark. Then we wait for her attorney's response to the petition and prepare for the custody fight. This just became much easier to win. Good. David, one more thing. Has Rachel contacted Tyler since the confrontation? I don't know. Why? Because if she's staying at the Fairmont and he works in Scottsdale, I'd bet money she's not staying there alone. If we can document them together again, especially after you filed for divorce, it strengthens our argument about her priorities and judgment. I closed my eyes. You want me to stake out her hotel. I want you to protect your interests, but only if you're up for it. I thought about Emma asking me why Mommy wasn't coming home, about Jake's face when he realized his family was broken, about Rachel humming in the shower while Tyler's texts lit up her phone. Send me the details on what you need documented. I'll email you within the hour. And David, take care of yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I hung up and finally turned off the engine. Sat in the silence of my garage, feeling the sting on my cheek where my wife of 16 years had hit me. The house felt enormous and empty when I walked inside. I took photos of my face from multiple angles, the red mark already fading to pink. Sent them to Patricia. Then I stood in my kitchen and looked at the spot where Rachel had stood this morning, mascara running, begging me to understand. My phone buzzed. Unknown. Number. This is Tyler. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I started typing. I deleted Tyler's message without responding. Whatever he wanted to say, apology, justification, threat, didn't matter. He was Rachel's problem now, not mine. The custody hearing happened 6 weeks later, mid-August, in a Maricopa County courtroom that smelled like floor polish and recycled air. Patricia had prepared me for everything. The questions, the tone, the way Rachel's attorney would try to paint me as controlling and vindictive. What she hadn't prepared me for was seeing Rachel walk in with Tyler sitting 3 rows behind her. Bold, Stupid. Exactly the kind of thing that made the judge's eyebrows rise when Patricia pointed it out. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Rachel's attorney argued that I'd conducted surveillance and violated her privacy. Patricia countered with the hotel receipts, the text messages, the journal entries, all legally obtained. When they played the audio of Rachel slapping me in the coffee shop, I watched her close her eyes. Emma testified in the judge's chambers. She was 14, old enough for her preference to matter. I don't know what she said, but when she came out, she wouldn't look at her mother. Judge Clark, different Clark than the one Patricia had warned me about, issued his ruling on September 2nd. Primary physical custody to me. Rachel got alternating weekends and one evening per week. The house stayed with the kids, which meant it stayed with me. I'd refinanced to buy out her half of the equity. The divorce was finalized October 14th, exactly 4 months after I'd found that first text message. Rachel moved to a condo in Tempe with Tyler. They lasted 6 months before he left her for someone else. I heard about it through Emma, who'd started talking to her mother again by then. Tentatively. Carefully. The way you'd approach something broken that might still have sharp edges. Emma's in college now, studying psychology at Arizona State. She says she wants to understand why people make the choices they do. I think she's really trying to understand her mother, but I don't say that out loud. Jake's 17, captain of his high school soccer team, applying to engineering programs. He sees Rachel every other Sunday for brunch. It's civil, distant. He told me once that he forgave her for leaving, but not for lying. I sold the house 2 years ago. Too many ghosts. Bought a smaller place in North Scottsdale, closer to work, with a guest room for when the kids visit. Emma brings her boyfriend sometimes. Jake brings his laundry. I dated a woman named Lisa for 8 months. She was kind, patient, everything Rachel wasn't. I ended it because I realized I was comparing everything she did to what Rachel had done, measuring every moment against the possibility of betrayal. Lisa deserved better than someone who checked her phone when she wasn't looking. My therapist says, trust is something you rebuild slowly, like physical therapy after an injury. Some days I believe her. I saw Rachel last month at Jake's senior night soccer game. She was there with her new boyfriend, not Tyler, someone else from her office. We nodded at each other from opposite sides of the bleachers. When Jake scored the winning goal, we both cheered, and for just a second I remembered what it felt like to be a team. Then the moment passed, and we were strangers again who happened to share 2 children and a past. After the game, Jake asked if I was okay seeing his mom there. I'm fine, I said. And I meant it. The truth is, I stopped being angry somewhere around year 2. Anger takes energy, and I needed that energy for Emma's college applications and Jake's SAT prep and learning how to cook something besides pasta. Anger is a luxury you can't afford when you're a single parent trying to hold everything together. What Rachel did broke something in me, but it also taught me something I wish I'd learned differently. That you can't love someone into being honest. You can't work hard enough or be present enough or sacrifice enough to prevent another person from making selfish choices. Sometimes people just choose themselves, and all you can do is decide how you'll respond. I chose documentation over confrontation, evidence over emotion. I chose to protect my children and my future instead of trying to salvage a past that was already gone. Was it cold? Maybe. Patricia called it strategic. My therapist called it self-preservation. Emma called it very dad, which I think was a compliment. The screenshot that changed everything is still on my phone, buried in a folder I never open. Sometimes I think about deleting it, but I never do. It's a reminder that the worst moments of your life can also be the ones that save you from wasting more years on something that was already dying. Rachel and I were married for 16 years. We've been divorced for almost 7. The kids turned out okay despite everything. I turned out okay despite everything. And if there's a moral to this story, it's this. Trust is the foundation of everything, and once it's gone, all the love in the world can't rebuild it. You can forgive someone for breaking your heart. You can co-parent with them, be civil at soccer games, even wish them well. But you can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you've seen. That Tuesday morning at 2:47 a.m., a notification lit up a phone on a kitchen counter and revealed the truth about my marriage. I could have ignored it, rolled over, gone back to sleep. Part of me wishes I had. But most of me knows that living in a comfortable lie is just another kind of prison. I chose the truth. It cost me everything I thought I wanted. And it gave me back something more valuable. The ability to look at myself in the mirror and know that I'm not living a fiction anymore. That's enough.